We open up the mailbag again to revisit the Knicks series, important things to know about potential trades, and will the Celtics own their own building ever? It's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Beantown, be ever ready. It's the C's. Who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT, Karalis. We kept the madness every game, every practice. Primetime dapping D White on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I got you Monday through Friday. This podcast is free. It's available on all podcasting platforms. It's available on YouTube. Watch the show there. Get into the comment section. Share your thoughts. Share your answers with me because I'm opening up the mailbag again, doing a Mailbag Monday, trying to get onto a regular Monday routine here with mailbag questions, which you can send into johnkaralis.com/mailbag. johnkaralis.com/mailbag. John Karalis is me. I've been covering the Celtics for about 20 years. I do it right now for Boston Sports Journal. So I hope you read my stuff there and enjoy my content across the internet. So again, today's a mailbag episode. Later on, we'll get into the new building, a potential. It's new owners. It's a new group. Will we see a new building? We'll get into that. Second segment is dedicated to an important thing to keep in mind when it comes to trades for Porzingis and Holiday. That's all very important. But we're going to start with Bernat from Barcelona or Barcelona. The lisp has to be involved. Very important. So he asks, I feel like the Knicks series hasn't fully been analyzed. Seems like by Monday we were already talking offseason, but shouldn't we dig into why a clearly better team lost? Jaylen Brown's inability to lead without Tatum, team's lack of spirit, maybe even the absence of a strong character in the locker room. They all deserve attention. Without that, the offseason talk feels incomplete. Okay, let's spend a few minutes kind of relitigating the series against the Knicks. And look, I think it's partly because the first couple of games, I think people understand that missed shots were at the heart of game one, right? They took too many threes in game one. We know that. They knew that. And this game two was a reaction to that. So why did the Knicks beat the Celtics in game one? They played with that. Say, look, we just watched them. I'm recording this after game three. I watched game three against the Pacers first, and they came back. They were down 20 again, and they came back. So they do that. They don't give up. They don't quit. They're going to fight. And the Celtics kind of messed around. And that, I think, was at the heart of game one. They messed around. They fired too many threes. They thought, all right, we're going to throw this knockout punch, no problem. And then the Knicks kept on coming. And the Celtics were like, oh, well, we now we have to throw some big haymakers, and they kept on missing. The shot selection was poor in game one, but also the shots were makeable. And we've talked about this over and over, that in game one, I don't think they executed well offensively, and their offense killed them. And at the same time, they had shots that they could make, and they would have won game one. But they lost. Okay. So that happens. They missed 45 3-pointers. It's incredible to think that they did that, but the Celtics, they settled. It was almost like game one of the regular season against the Knicks, where they were ready to set a record and they started firing 3-pointers and missed a ton in a row and couldn't break the record. And it was very similar to that. They were almost like punished for not respecting the game and not running their normal offense. Game two, it was an overreaction the other way. They got up 20. They started losing. They started overreacting by going to the rim. And the same thing. They probably could have benefited from generating some good looks from three, or taking some of the good looks from three that they had. But they decided to go the other way and force a lot of twos and stuff like that. You add into that Jaylen's meniscus thing, which I do think led to some misses. That I think Jaylen's knee and Porzingis' illness were very important factors here. Jaylen's knee led to some misses in mid-range shots that he might normally hit. He's very good in those mid-range shots. And I think he started, because the knee was bothering him, started taking some bad shots to grift for fouls. And it just kind of threw him off his game. So there's a cascading effect. That wasn't falling. Kristaps wasn't there for that middle of the fourth quarter, run where they could have dumped it into him and would have had, like, I'm interrupting myself here to say, if Porzingis wasn't available in those games, it almost would have felt better, because everybody from the coaching staff to the players would have known, okay, KP's not there. We have to figure something else out. But because he was there, but then also he wasn't, I think it threw everything off. And there wasn't a good fourth quarter stabilizing option. No one else could do anything. Al Horford, I've been talking about how he forced things and all of that. All of this stuff, I think, came together and cost the Celtics their first two games at home. The Knicks lost their first two games at home. Home court advantage in the East seems to be a problem. Like, no one can win at home anymore in the East. Like I said, this Knicks Pacers series, every 3 games in, every home team is lost. So I'm not saying Jaylen Brown's inability to lead without Tatum. I don't think that's a fair point, because he led them pretty good in game 5 to that win. I thought that was a great game from Jaylen. The team's lack of spirit, thought the team had plenty of spirit when they were building their 20-point leads. There was plenty of spirit there. The Celtics were better, and in the clutch down the stretch, I think they got caught with their pants down trying to fire too many threes in game 1. They overreacted in game 2. Then game 4 happens, and that's where they start to, I think, really kind of unravel. The Jayson Tatum injury happens. The game 4 unraveling is the biggest problem for me. And again, having Porzingis there would have been like just a good Porzingis who could protect the rim and not foul. I thought that would have been a big difference. I thought the Celtics just stepped slow. Just not a good series. Like I said, the meniscus was a problem. I don't think Jaylen could defend at a level where he was defending normally. And give the Knicks credit. Give the Knicks credit for playing great. Give Mitchell Robinson credit for playing great. The Celtics did not rebound well. It's I don't know what else I can say. This is kind of why we've moved on so quickly. But I feel like the Mitchell Robinson problem was never really solved. He gave the Knicks too many second chances. I think the Celtics ran out of gas a little bit. I think you can say maybe the Orlando series beat the hell out of them, and they were really worn down from that. And even though they had a bunch of days off, the physicality was a lot. The physicality from the Knicks wore them down. They weren't fully there. It was a bad series. It was a bad, I don't know. I don't want to say it was a bad matchup. I liked the matchup, but it was a bad series and a bad performance. And is it a systemic thing? I didn't think it was a systemic thing. It was they didn't react well to things like Mitchell Robinson. They didn't react well to their missed shots. They just didn't react well. Maybe they thought that having the Knicks, facing the Knicks was going to be too easy, and they just never got out of that. And they overestimated their odds. They underestimated the Knicks, and they never really had they could never really get out of their own way in clutch moments. But they had 20-point leads all across the board, and they should have won that series. I don't know what else to say about that series with the Knicks. Every team has a stinker. Every team has in their history has one series where you're like, oh God, what happened there? And this is this team's. I'm gonna save the rest of this, the Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum, how they react down the stretch, because there is more conversation to be had here. And I want to do that with another voice on the podcast, so it's not just me. So we'll do that. We'll save that. But that's the end of my talk from the Knicks series. It's done. We are moving on. So when we come back, we'll get to questions about trades. And I think all of the questions about the trades are very similar, and it kind of sets us up. I want to make sure we're clear on what Boston is going to try to accomplish with their trades this summer. That's next. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. We've all done this. You checked your bank account and you go, I used to have more money in here. Where did it all go? Sometimes it's eating. Sometimes it's shopping. Sometimes it's eating while you shop. Sometimes it's shopping while you eat. It's easy to lose track of your money, but Monarch Money is here as your personal CFO, gives you full visibility and control over your finances. It's a complete financial command center. Track all your accounts, investments, spending in one place. Do not just manage your money. Start building wealth with Monarch Money. You can really take a look, you drill down on, this is how much I'm spending on dining out or delivery or streaming services or anything with fees, the in-game purchases from things where you don't realize how much you're adding up. You don't have to juggle multiple apps. You just track your spending and all that in one place. If you've got a partner, you can do all of that with your partner so you can stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA. You'll get half off your first year. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out NBA Big Board. The NBA Big Board show, Locked On NBA Big Board, has draft expert Rafael Barlow, who reacts to every workout, interview, and rumor leading up to the NBA draft. Find Locked On NBA Big Board on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Again, mailbag questions can be submitted at johnkaralis.com/mailbag. That's how I organize these questions. I'm going to start doing these weekly. Monday, Mailbag Monday makes sense. It's alliterative. We like to alliterate in our society. We love those things. Taco Tuesday, Mailbag Monday. So let's keep that ball rolling. I'm going to read all three of these questions here for this segment and kind of lump the answer together. Zach asks, assuming Tatum misses the next season, what archetype of player do you want to see the Celtics acquire to be the core with Tatum, Pritchard, Derek White, Jaylen Brown moving forward? And will the Celtics have enough assets to make something happen? Bo asks, what value could the Celtics get for guys like Porzingis or Holiday? And John asks, lots to talk about moving on from KP, but isn't our negotiating position weak? Who would want him based on his injury history so we'd only get pennies on the dollar for him? Literally, the Celtics are looking to get pennies on the dollar for their players. They are looking to cut salary. So the Celtics are not negotiating from a position of power. That is true. Celtics are negotiating from a position of We need to get rid of these guys. So let's just be clear about all of this. This first batch of trades is primarily a salary clearing exercise. So there's a reason why Jrue Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, and now we're lumping in Sam Hauser into this mix. That's why these three names have come up over and over and over again when it comes to this discussion about the offseason and trades. Holiday is not going to return a ton. You're not going to get draft picks and good young players. You're trying to shed salary, number one. Number two, you're going to get less useful guys in return. This is the plan. The Celtics are going to get a little bit worse. With every one of these trades, they're probably going to get a little bit worse. That's just part of what's happening here. The Celtics have peaked. Now, that doesn't mean they can no longer win a championship. They just have to work harder, and you have to get the fit has to be kind of perfect. Whoever they do get back has to be kind of a perfect fit. They kind of have to get a little lucky. They're going to need more from Tatum. They're going to need more from Brown or Derek White or whomever is left here. They're going to need a little bit more. It's going to have to be a little bit of a tweak offensively. And this is an under-discussed thing, and it's probably something that we're going to have to discuss as we start to parse what this summer is going to mean. Celtics offense is going to have to evolve. Joe Mazzulla's offense, we talk about Mazzulla only wants this. Well, no. Joe Mazzulla wants the best shot. And depending on the players who are left, this drive, make the right read, kick it to, whoever's open and that person shoots, it's not going to be exactly the same. Because what if you're starting Luke Cornett? It's going to be a little bit different. The types of shots that are considered good shots are different. When Holiday's not out on the floor, who's his replacement? Is there a replacement? Do you get a guard out of this, or is it Baylor Shireman? Is it somebody else? Is it who knows who? But point is, the Celtics offense has run the way it has because it was Tatum and Brown and Jrue and Derek and Porzingis or Al, all five guys capable of scoring. Well, it may not be all five guys capable of scoring from anywhere on the floor, at least. Could be Luke, but he's more of a in the dunker spot or pick and roll guy. He's not going to pop. That changes how you're defended. That's going to change how your offense works. If it's a different guy, or if you get a less reliable shooter in return for Holiday, or if you get only a shooter in return for Holiday and not somebody who's going to, be able to drive it effectively, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to get different players. I think Joe Mazzulla is going to have a challenge of having a different offense, and that's going to change things. But this is going to be what happens with the Celtics. They have peaked talent-wise. Now there's going to be a drop-off in talent. Whoever you get for Jrue is going to be less than Holiday. Whoever you get for Porzingis is going to be less than Porzingis. Whoever you get for Hauser, well, you're probably not going to get anybody for Hauser. The whole point of including Hauser into this discussion is the fact that he makes $10 million and that he fits into a mid-level exception and can be traded for nothing. So another guy gets the opportunity. So Shireman can step up, and maybe you draft someone to be, in that Shireman role next. Another shooter from, some smaller school or whatever, lesser known, or just specifically a more singular skilled guy. Whatever it is, the reason we're including Hauser into this discussion, not that I want to trade Sam Hauser. I like Sam Hauser. I do not want to trade Sam Hauser. But in this scenario, you're like, well, it's $10 million and it saves the Celtics incredible amount of money tax-wise and gets them closer to under the second apron. So stuff happens. You're going to have to do it. And that's going to make the Celtics a little bit worse. each move is going to make the Celtics a little bit worse, and we have to wrap our heads around that. So I'm sorry, Bo, when you ask what value can they get, it's less than these guys' value. When John asks about pennies on the dollar for Porzingis, yes, the point is to get pennies on the dollar for Porzingis. So you can get, instead of spending the dollars, you're spending the cents in terms of salary and taxes. So this is it. And as far as Zach's question about the archetype of player, there's no archetype. There is really no archetype. It's who is available that makes less money, and then which of those guys is the best of the not as good players. That's, I think, going to be the simplest way to explain what the Celtics are doing. Whatever trade Brad makes, if it's anything better than tolerable, then congratulations, you've done a great job. But I'm just expecting okay, I can live with that reaction to these trades. Like, I'm not looking at these trades and saying, okay, this is going to be great. No, the reaction I'm hoping for is, all right, I can live with it. I can live. That's workable. You know what I mean? Picture a chef who has all the ingredients that he or she would want, and then you take an ingredient, a good ingredient, and you're like, okay, we're going to get you something worse here. And then it's like Chopped. You pull something out of the basket and you go, well, I can work with this, but I don't like it. You know what I mean? And I'm sorry to send whoever is coming in, I'm sorry to set you up like that. That's going to suck for the player who's coming in. But that's what you're going to get. That's the reaction. And hopefully the player coming in can change that reaction to some degree. I hope that player can come in and be like, I'm actually not that bad. Watch me play and help this team. It's just going to be, I think, more specific skills, more specific guys. The archetype stuff, maybe next summer, maybe trade deadline 2027. But right now it's going to be the painful salary cutting, and maybe there's more to it, but that's the best way I can explain it. All right, let's get back to when I come back, the building question. It's the biggest non-trade question of this new ownership group. Can the Celtics ever get their own building? That is coming up next. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA Game Night. Locked On NBA Game Night is covering the game, because there's only one game a night now. And this is going to be a good one because the Knicks came back from 20 points down. So Game Night's going to have a hell of a podcast there. So make sure you're listening to that and Locked On NBA, both in the same feed, covering the big stories and all of that good stuff. Back to the mailbag. JohnKaralis.com/mailbag to get your questions in. Doug says, I understand that since the Celtics are a second apron team, they can't combine players together in trades. Does that restriction immediately go away once they trade someone to get below it? For instance, they have to trade one person first to get under the apron, and then they can trade two people together. What's the order of events to make real changes to the roster? Okay, this is a good question here. Very important to note that you're correct, but there's a caveat. There's an extra element to this to throw into your question here, Doug. Say the Celtics make their trades and they get $1 million under the second apron. Okay. Now, yes, you can aggregate 2 for 1. The Celtics cannot send out 2 players for 1. That's called aggregating salaries to make a trade. 2 $10 million players for a $20 million player is aggregating salaries. And you cannot do that over the second apron. The reason you cannot do that over the second apron is because when you do that, it hard caps you at the second apron. So if the Celtics do make the moves and say they trade They make whatever trades they have to make, but they take players back and they end up $1 million under the salary cap, under the second apron, I should say. And they say, okay, now we can aggregate trades. The second they do that, they are hard capped at the second apron. So the good news is you can't go over the second apron anymore. The bad news is no matter what, everybody could get sick. The entire team could go and get bad gas station sushi in Oklahoma and get food poisoning, and there'd be no signing anybody, no hardship signings, no nothing. You're stuck. So it happened to the Dallas Mavericks because they had 10-day contracts that they wanted to give full guarantees to, and they couldn't do it. They ran out of money because they were hard capped. So to Doug's point, this is why I've been saying the Celtics don't just have to get under the second apron. They kind of have to get under it by a fair amount, because if you want to make moves over the season, and there's an aggregation trade to make, so whatever it is, I'm not even going to guess, but you've made your Holiday, Porzingis, Sam Hauser trades. They've been done. Now you're 10 million under the second apron. Now, if you make a trade 2-for-1, okay, you're hard capped at the second apron, but you've got wiggle room because you're not taking back 10 million more. You're probably taking back a few million more, but you've got some wiggle room. So you want to give yourself that room under the second apron. Also, important to note, it's whatever happens after the trade is what matters. So if you're a second apron team, for some reason, you want to trade 2 players for 1, but somehow in that trade, you get less, you take back less money, and it gets you under the second apron, you can still do that, right? You don't have to take back more. So say the Celtics are targeting a $20 million player, and they put a 10 and a 12. They don't have these guys, but I'm just using this as an example. They get a 10 and a $12 million player. You can aggregate those two to get to the salary. And because afterwards it would get them under the second apron, that's legal. So if you start $1 million over the second apron and you aggregate 2 players and you take back a salary and it gets you under the second apron, that is a legal trade. So it's what you are after the trade that matters. So it's another little caveat here, another little element. Okay? It's a lot of little elements here that I'm throwing out there, but I don't think it's going to matter. But it's not what you are before the trade. It's where you end up afterwards, whether you are legal or not legal. So keep that in mind. Manny and Kevin both have similar questions. Do you think we have a chance to get Marcus Smart or Robert Williams or Grant Williams? And then Kevin says, is it possible Marcus Smart can be traded to Boston in exchange for Kristaps or Jrue, and then Boston trades Smart again to go under the second apron and blah, blah, blah. So do you have a chance to get any of these guys? I mean, theoretically you do, but no, I'd say the chances are almost zero. Like not Grant Williams, because that's not gonna happen. Like we're looking at guys that were moved for a reason. Rob is the only one, but even Rob, because of the injury history, it's just tough. But Marcus, Grant, I'm not sure that those relationships with I'm not sure those relationships with Joe are necessarily the best relationships anymore. I don't think that's a place that the Celtics want to be. I don't think you want to revisit any of the Marcus Smart stuff. I don't think you want to revisit any of the Grant Williams stuff. That's better to be gone, better to be done. That's just my feeling, just my own personal feeling. No, nothing behind it. It's just, it's better to just move on from that. But Could they, in a scenario, trade for Marcus Smart and then flip him in a situation where he doesn't join the team? Yeah, they could. At that point, anything's up for grabs. But let's just not worry about former guys coming back. It's just not worth. This happens all the time. No matter who the former guy is, people have players that they like, and I love Marcus Smart, but it's done. It's over. It's time to move on. Let's finish with Preston, who says, I know we're knee deep in second apron and trade talks, but I want to ask what your thoughts are on the Celtics getting their own building one day. With new ownership having to scrape together funds to buy the team and staring at some significant taxes and penalties, it seems like there's no way they can be happy renting from the Jacobs family. Do you see a new building coming down the line in 5-10 years? No, I do not, because renting from the Jacobs family is significantly cheaper than building their own building. I want to be clear that building something like that in Boston is not happening within 5 to 10 years. This is an extraordinary process that would take a significant amount of time. I don't know. Like maybe Bill Chisholm and his new group, maybe somebody has some good connections. I don't know. But building in the city of Boston, first of all, nowhere. There's nowhere in the city of Boston to do it. Maybe something in the Seaport area, somewhere down there. Maybe something just outside of Boston, but like still basically Boston, like something in, I don't know, Quincy, Somerville, Everett, maybe. But the process of doing that is so extensive, takes so much time and energy. It is to get between the local people, the state people, federal people, all the regulations, all the red tape, palms that need to be greased, the politicians that need to be convinced, all of that takes years and years and years and years and years just to clear all of the little hurdles. It's almost not worth it, especially with a lack of space, a lack of actual arena. Like, it's not like there's some big empty lot sitting somewhere. You have to probably tear something down to build it up. Who's paying for that? These people have already borrowed tons of money to get to the price tag to buy the Celtics. Do you really think that they're going to borrow more to? No, I think that ship has sailed. Now, maybe there's the way around it is you find a partner, a separate partner that you're in good with, and you build a new building that you also rent, but you have some sort of better deal. I don't know. My bottom line, like, I would love to see the Celtics in their own building. I am not tied to the Celtics being in that area. They've already moved out of the old garden. The old garden is gone. You don't have to walk in at that same entry. Like, I don't care if it's across the river. I don't care if it's up the street or on the other side of town, or if they, fill in, whatever they do. I don't care. Like, I'm not going to be tied down. Like, this is Celtics and its history and all of that. I get it. But if you tie yourself to that, you limit the possibility. You can respect the history, but not be tied to it so much that it handcuffs you. So I don't care if they move from Causeway Street. I don't. But you can't put it out in like Worcester. You can't put it out in like in like Wellesley. You can't go, the old Detroit style, Palace of at Auburn Hills type of thing. You still want to be in Boston, and there's just nothing around that area that you can make. And they've spent so much time and energy building up everything around the arena that at this point it might just be better to keep it there. So I just, the process of building something in Boston, so exhausting and expensive that people who have spent this kind of money and borrowed this much money to buy the team, no. I don't think they're doing any of that stuff. I think they'll just be happy renting and renting for a long time. And we'll see. Maybe I'll put it this way. I'm almost 52. I don't think I'm ever going to see them play in anything other than that building with some renovations, but the building is still good. The building is good. It works. It holds everybody. It's fine. Maybe the visiting team doesn't like the locker room quite as much. Maybe the Celtics locker room could be bigger, but other than that, I think whenever I retire, whenever I've watched the last Celtics game I ever watched in my life, that last Celtics home game, I think will be played in that building. And we'll see what happens after that, but I don't anticipate seeing anything other than basketball at TD Garden. So hopefully that answers your question. All questions for me can come in at johnkaralis.com/mailbag. Then I will answer them. I'm going to do Mailbag Mondays, maybe bonus. It depends on how many questions come in. Maybe a bonus podcast, maybe 2 podcasts, mailbags per week. If I get a ton and the questions are different enough, maybe I move them from Mondays because of news or whatever, but I hope you enjoyed it. Please feel free to submit the questions. Get into the comment section on YouTube. Watch it there. Everydayers, I do appreciate you participating like this all the time. Thank you so much for being with me every Monday through Friday and sharing the podcast. I love it when people tell everybody that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.